if you had told me even 6 months ago we would have seen nation-state level adoption of both Bitcoin and Lightning, I would not have believed that, right? And it happened. And even though, El Salvador, being a small nation, 6 some odd million people, I believe it is historic and significant that this level of adoption has occurred. And a number of retailers are now using the Lightning Network. And so Bitcoin, the community loves Twitter, right? People are on Twitter. I'm sure you've seen a lot of that. And there was a tweet this week because last Tuesday was the launch of this law in El Salvador, and a number of these retailers were using Lightning, the technology that we had built called L&D for my company. And a fee at Starbucks for a user paying over the Lightning Network was 0.05 of a cent, which I thought was just incredible. I mean, compare that to the types of fees that people would pay for the traditional, say, card networks. So there's a joke in the community about paying for coffee with Bitcoin. And in the US, it is not necessarily hard to pay for coffee, but in many other emerging markets, the rails are not there, and they're actually able to use this technology. So to me, I believe it is quite significant. There's also been a domino effect. There's a great company out there called Galoy who's building an app called Bitcoin Beach, and this actually is what got the whole El Salvador movement started. They have a community in the south of El Salvador, a surfing community, where they've been using Bitcoin and Lightning for 2 years now in what we call a circular economy. So their vendors don't have access to card networks, but they have smartphones. So they're actually using Bitcoin and Lightning to send and receive money, and vendors are able to accept it. And to me, that community is just the beginning. That company has heard from so many other governments, communities around the world that are interested in this technology. So El Salvador is the first. It's certainly not the last. And I believe we will see a variety of other, particularly emerging market nations, move forward on Bitcoin adoption.
So you mentioned Twitter, right, which is important in the Bitcoin community. The Bitcoin community sort of lives on Twitter. No one, or very few people, right, have done more for Bitcoin than Jack Dorsey, who also had the wisdom to invest in Lightning Labs. Jack Dorsey, according to public reports, is about to integrate Lightning into Twitter. Can you speak about, to the extent you can, what is forthcoming? Again, I think the thing that's really interesting is the utility and what services Lightning is empowering.
Definitely. So I'm just speaking from kind of the outside here as an observer. And yes, Jack Dorsey is one of our investors and has been incredibly helpful, and also just somebody who really understood Bitcoin at the outset and seeing that it can be this native protocol for value and currency of the internet. And so I believe that fits into a strategy with Twitter, right? So part of what got me interested in Bitcoin and Lightning in the first place is this idea of internet native digital payments and the creator economy. And what better place for this than Twitter? Yes, the Bitcoin community loves to, sometimes they love to have lots of fights on Twitter and debates. I've definitely been in the middle of those. But also there are a lot of people that will create tweet storms and post videos and have all sorts of really interesting, I learned so much from Twitter, and it's a way for me to find really interesting links and research and discover new people. We've made hires for Lightning Labs of people from Twitter, and we love memes in the Bitcoin and Lightning community. So the idea there is, well, okay, Bitcoin and Lightning enable instant, high-volume, low-fee transactions around the world globally. If we were to use existing payment rails, and I think what they would likely do is have a variety of options, some on the existing rails, some using Bitcoin and Lightning, you can get to far more people globally than you would be able to. And it makes a lot of sense. You have a younger population as well that very much wants more Bitcoin. They want to be able to hold this. They want to be able to earn Bitcoin. Sometimes people say, well, I don't want to spend Bitcoin. But Lightning enables people, unlike, say, a Visa. Sometimes people say, OK, Lightning's like a decentralized Visa. And there are elements of that. But you don't really earn money on Visa. But with Lightning, you can. So we see a lot of really interesting use cases like the Twitter one, which will enable content creators to earn over Lightning. There's an incredible company called Stack, which enables people globally, Latin America, Southeast Asia, to earn Bitcoin over Lightning, performing small tasks like for AI and machine learning. There's another one called Zebedee for internet gaming, where today, gamers in Brazil are earning more over Lightning with Bitcoin than they would in a normal job for their salary by actually just doing what they love, which is playing video games. So we're able to unlock these incredible opportunities that would not have previously been possible, and that's where I see Twitter fitting in as well.
So it's sort of like tipping, right? Is that a way to think about it, right? That if I post something you think it's cool, Lightning is going to enable you to tip me in Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, there are all sorts of interesting examples. People could participate, say, in certain campaigns as well. There was a really incredible campaign recently where a group called Bitcoin Smiles in the Bitcoin community raised money for people in El Salvador who could not afford dental work, hence Smiles. And just, this community, people, by the way, they do this on their nights and weekends. This is not their job. They just love it and they really care. And so you could have charity contributions and things like that as well. I think there are a lot of really interesting opportunities.
So I want to just scope out a little bit. I'm sure everyone can tell you're super enthusiastic about this. And the thing that brought you to it is sort of a passion for open source, decentralized networks. I can speak for myself. I don't think I fully appreciated the significance of a decentralized network until recently. And I would say the China ban on mining, hammered it home for me. But I'm probably still not as far along on it as I should be. Can you just speak to that? And I want to hear your answer. I'm sure other people do too as well.
Definitely. So the way that I like to think about it, being the internet geek that I am, in the early days of the internet, folks may remember AOL, CompuServe, Prodigy, and the like, right? Those are proprietary networks. To have an AOL keyword, you had to go to AOL and get permission. And then there was the World Wide Web, and anybody could build on the web. And ultimately, it was the web that won out in terms of, all of the incredible sites and businesses that have been built on the web today. And I see the same for Bitcoin as this internet of money, in that the ability for anybody to build on top of Bitcoin, you don't have to ask permission. You're able to do so, and Lightning makes it easier for developers to build on top of it because you have these instant transactions as opposed to the 10-minute block time of Bitcoin. You have the scalability as opposed to the 5 to 10 transactions per second, and then you have the fees that can spike on the base layer of the Bitcoin blockchain. So the open nature of Bitcoin and Lightning means that it's available to people around the world. For example, there's an incredible entrepreneur named Bernard Para out of Nigeria, who just built an application called BitNob, right? And he just spun up a group of developers, and now they have this business, and they're building for Bitcoin and Lightning, and he didn't have to go and get permission. It's just open. And now you can use the Strike app to actually send remittances to Nigeria because Bernard was able to tap into this technology and the Lightning network. And to me, that's what's extremely powerful. And then some people might ask, okay, well, there are all these other cryptocurrencies. Why focus on Bitcoin, as my company Lightning Labs and as our community in the Lightning Network community? And the answer is ultimately network effects, right? Right now, Bitcoin is the most secure cryptocurrency. It has the most hash power for miners backing it up, and folks are probably well aware, it is the most valuable cryptocurrency with the most adoption around the world. And in emerging markets, it's even more so, by the way. In Nigeria, 32% of Nigerians use cryptocurrency, the vast majority of which is Bitcoin. And then something like 50% of Nigerians are 18 and under. So there's a very young population that is very excited about this technology. And we see that in other places, in emerging markets and around the world. And of course, here in the US, lots of incredible developers and builders on this technology. So my answer there is, the idea that you have all these existing users, you have people that are building upon the technology. There's something called Metcalfe's Law, and one of my favorite researchers, Lynn Alden, has written a lot about that. Check out her macro research and her Bitcoin research. And she has a piece on network effects. And she talks about how breaking a network effect means if something is not 10 times better, it will not break it. If it's slightly better, it's very difficult. So Bitcoin already has a substantial network effect. And there's a concept of Metcalfe's Law, Robert Metcalfe, who created this for networks and the internet. As each individual user joins a network, the value of that network goes up exponentially. So to me, the open, decentralized nature of Bitcoin combined with the network effects, and then you have Bitcoin, the monetary network, which is Lightning, combined with Bitcoin, the asset, that creates this virtuous cycle, and we call it a flywheel effect, which just keeps growing and growing. And we've seen a lot of network growth, a lot of people running these nodes on the network that are like servers, and a lot of developers building on the technology, and an increasing amount of capital that is deployed onto Lightning as well.
So we have a minute left. There are about 100-something million people that own Bitcoin. And there are projections that in 4 years, that number will be billion plus. What gets us from here to there, right? Because that's S-curve stuff. That's an acceleration of adoption. What do you see as the driving forces for that?
At the end of the day, real use cases for real people in those categories of enabling use cases that weren't previously possible and enabling access for those that previously did not have it. And there's something in the broader, I'm in this cryptocurrency world in the industry, and in some cases I think people are working on solutions in search of a problem. And I really care about solving real problems for real people and making this technology accessible. In the early days of Bitcoin and Lightning, even 3 years ago, it was hard to use. It was like command line based. It was like the early days of the internet. Now we're seeing it become more and more accessible, more and more usable. And I think in the early days, people underestimated the power of the internet. There's this great quote by an economist. By 2005, the internet's impact on the economy will be no greater than the fax machines. Clearly, that person was wrong. And similarly, I think a lot of people underestimate Bitcoin and Lightning. But at the end of the day, I would highly recommend not to sleep on this technology, as my friend Max Webster wrote, because we're really at the beginning, and there's so much left in store.